Hello knockouts, TonyaTko here, and right now we are in Leon, Nicaragua. And Leon, Nicaragua is a really beautiful place. We're going to be doing a travel vlog today. I'm going to let you see the surrounding area. I'm going to tell you a little bit about Leon, some of its history, what you can expect to find here, as well as a little known traveler's tip that I'm going to tell you about how to get some really inexpensive, very delicious food here in Nicaragua. So let's start with the word of the day. The word of the day is guardar. And when you guardar something, guardar means to take something and put it into something else, to cover it with something, to encase it in something, to keep it safe, or for transport. I first came across this word when I was in Guatemala and I was in a bank, and I took out my phone to like kind of try to take some selfies because there was a guy behind me with like a big gigantic gun, right? And he told me that I needed to guardar my phone, and I didn't understand what he was talking about. And then through miming I got a sense of what it was that he was referring to. And then I came into contact with that word when I was when I purchased some food from a local space, and we are in a town with an active volcano. It's very dry. Nicaragua has 2 seasons. It's dry for half of the year, 6 months, and then it rains every day for the next 6 months. So right now we're in the dry season. So she told me that she was going to guardar my food inside of this plastic bag so that no polvo would get on it. And if you've ever bought any seasonings in the store, you know that polvo is how you describe the like powdered garlic or any type of seasoning in polvo, which is the powdered form. But I guess you can also use that to mean dust. So she said she was going to guardar it so that there would be no polvo on it. So there we have 2 words of the day. Let's also talk a little bit about Nicaragua. Right now, the US dollar, the money in Nicaragua is called the Cordoba. And the US dollar is getting about 26.6 Cordobas right now. You can get a plate of food for, I'm going to tell you about the cheap plate of food that you can get, but you can get a plate of food for about 100 Cordobas, which is somewhere around $4. But you can also, if you know the locals trick, you can get a full plate of food for 30 Cordobas, but you have to know the magic words. And the magic words are, listen very carefully, you have to ask for a BX. BX is the letter B and the letter X. I'm from the Bronx, so it was very easy for me to remember this. But you go to one of the places and you ask for a BX, and they give you a full plate of food, which is rice and beans, which they call gallo pinto out here. You can get chicken, beef, or any number of different types of meat. And then you can also get shredded cabbage salad and a tortilla. If you're on my Instagram page, you can come over and take a look at what a BX looks like. It's a plate full of food and it's really delicious. It's barbecued outside. We're actually going to walk past one of my favorite spots in a moment. I'm going to do a 360-degree view for you. Right now, the sun is getting ready to set. It's about 5 o'clock. The sun is, I'd say, maybe 30 degrees up into the air. And it's pretty hot here in Nicaragua. Most of the day, it gets close to about 100 degrees. It's sweltering. This is why I didn't even bother to put on my eyebrows or any lip gloss today, because it was too much. It was too much. The people here are a mix, kind of. They're Indians, they're mezclados, and then there are also black people, which ironically are also along the coast like they were in Guatemala. So now that you know what? Let's talk about some of what it is that I've learned about the rich history since I've been here in Nicaragua. I'm not sure to how many of you Nicaragua sounds familiar, but if you hear the word Sandonistas, Contras, do any of that sound familiar to you? I remember when I was a little girl, I used to hear a lot of these words on the radio and on the TV, and it wasn't until I got here and started listening to the history. I met a man who was 38 years old, and he had like these scars on his arm, and I asked him, you know, what happened, and he said that he was shot. He was in the war. And I was like, you don't look like you, because he said the war was in '79, and the way he said it made it seem like it was a war that we should all know about. And so basically I was like, 79, you couldn't have been old enough to really have been in a war. But he told me that he was 3 in 79 and that he got caught in some crossfire. Apparently this entire town was leveled when after the war in 79, which it was a tremendous amount of unrest. I went to a museum out here, which is really interesting. I'm going to tell you one last thing and then we're going to get into the walking tour. I went to a museum about the revolution here, and the people who were in the museum were really happy about their contribution. I met some of the people who were actually fighting, you know, the National Guard, etc., and they were really happy about their contribution. But then I talked to someone today, and he was basically saying that when the dictator, that his grandfather told him that when the dictator was ruling, that those were some of the best times here in Nicaragua. So, you know, it just goes to show that, excuse me, my hair, my bun has fallen down. It just goes to show that there are just so many different views and different ideologies. I've definitely gained a tremendous amount of respect for Nicaraguans because I have respect for them because the people took it into their own hands to rise up and revolt against some treatment that they didn't feel was correct. I also have a tremendous amount of respect for them because they had the wars on their lands. The people participated. They did what they felt that they needed to do to alleviate themselves of the oppression that they faced. And I also learned some stuff about about American foreign policy, and I was reading this in the guidebook, how America was funding the Contras and set up the National Guard and helped get the dictator into office, and because they didn't want this place to be a communist country. And it was very, very interesting. There were assassinations that happened and assassinations which were set up. So when some of you think about some of the animosity that certain countries have towards Americans, some of it goes very deep into the way America has meddled in other countries' foreign affairs so that they could have access to the country's resources and any number of things. But that's not what we're going to talk about in this video. What we're going to do right now is I'm going to do a 360. Right now we are in front of the cathedral. It's one of the largest, oldest cathedrals here in Central America, and it happens to be right here in Nicaragua. Nicaragua has 17 churches and cathedrals I believe it's in Leon, in the small city of Leon. There's 17 cathedrals and iglesias, which are churches, and it's very profound because the Spaniards came here, enslaved people, killed people, brought their religion, and the country is still Catholic hundreds, thousands of years later. And I'm going to keep my opinions on that to myself, but what we'll do is we will give you a roundabout view. This is the cathedral, and you get a sense of the tremendous vastness of the cathedral when you look at it from all sides. What I'm going to do is I'm going to guardar my camera, and we're going to take just a quick step inside, and then we're going to come back out. There are other things that I want you to see, like if you take a look at this building right here. I want to do a walking vlog so you can get a look at some of the buildings, right? When I went to the museum, I saw, let me make sure I'm not in the wind. When I went to the museum, I saw pictures of what Leon looked like in 1979. And you would, in the 60s and in the 70s, and you would be really surprised to know that a lot of these buildings have remained untouched and the same, or rebuilt in the likeness of how it was in the 1960s and 70s. So there's a lot of really old, a lot of really rustic buildings, a lot of I don't want to say prehistoric, I can't think of the word, but there's a lot of postmodern, I don't know the word, but there's a lot of old architecture here. Let's just put it simply. Here's I believe this is another cathedral here. I'm not exactly sure. They're setting up some sort of festival stuff right now. It is the beginning of Semana Santa, and so People are coming out in droves. For those of you who don't know, Nicaragua is a country in Central America which is below El Salvador and above Costa Rica. I'm actually going to be heading to Panama tomorrow, so we'll get our next walking vlog in Panama. I'm jumping over Costa Rica because Costa Rica, I've heard, is a little too expensive, but let me guardar my camera and let's go inside. Shh. Okay, so now we're out and I wanted to show you, look, way down in the distance. We won't get a chance to see most of them today, but as you see, way down in the distance is another cathedral or iglesia. It's very beautiful. They're so well constructed and so beautifully preserved. Okay, what we're gonna do now is we're gonna walk through the town so that you can see what some of the buildings look like. I find something really profound about Nicaragua is that there are a lot of secondhand shops here, a lot. So you can actually, like if you, like sometimes, you know, I don't even know whether the clothes are new or secondhand. There are a lot of, like, you know how like when you go to the Salvation Army or the Goodwill, they have like storefront set up, not like, and I think they're for profit, but you can buy really inexpensive, sometimes 40 coronas for a shirt. I was able to buy 2 bathing suits. The bottoms of the bathing suit were had the tags on it. So some of the stuff are new, but they're still like, I don't know, very inexpensive. Here, look. I'm going to take you to the spot where you can get the be'ekis, where I order mine. Hold on. Let me guardar my camera. Oh, let's see. Hola, ¿cómo estás? Bien, gracias a Dios. Oh, con permiso.
radio y ella siguió ya llamando a la gente.
Right now we are inside of a small little shopping area where you can see people have their shops set up to sell all different types of goods. There's the bags of mayonnaise. They've closed up for the day and we're going to head back outside. But I wanted you to be able to get a look at the building. Disculpe. Typically during the day, this area is filled with all types of fruits, vegetables, items for quick sale or even for washing, etc.
Cuando vamos a entrar recarga, después como a las 8, otra recarga.
This is a bus. This is a really busy corner where cars just... This is another mall. Basically here, when you're here, you just have to get in where you fit in terms of the street. Some of the times the sidewalk is covered, so you have to jump out into the road. There are cars coming sometimes from both directions, but they pretty much give you the right of way if you run. So listen, I want you all to be able to see some of the buildings. These are some of the storefronts set up. There's a huge grocery store inside that lot right there. Taxi drivers not only take one person at a time, but they take multiple people. This is a place selling shawarmas. Looks like gyros from New York. That's what it looks like. Another building, mall right there. And this is exactly the way the buildings looked. Like if you look at the pictures of the 1970s in Nicaragua, you would see that the buildings look very much the same. You see that there are old Spanish tile roofs right there. You can still see the heavy Spanish influence in the buildings, in the doors, in the bars. Right now we are in what's called El Centro. It's supposed to be pretty safe in El Centro, so I'm not feeling as much fear as I would normally feel to have my camera out.
No problem.
People are closing up their shops for the day. Here go some of those old Spanish doors that I love so much in Guatemala. They are here as well. So you can definitely see the Spanish style influence. I need to get to Spain and go to an old colonial town in Spain and see what that area looks like there. And as you can see, the structures are very well maintained. And in some spots you see like a bit of rusticness, like where that roof is just like completely falling out right there. I guess those are but since it doesn't rain, you know, but for half of the year, I guess they don't have to worry much about. And then from one block to another, let's see if I could get out into the street so that you can see a little bit better. Look, see, the sun is going down out there. I don't know if you can see that, but it's really beautiful. Let me make sure I'm practicing safe walking techniques. But these are some of those old colonial doors that I love with the fencing on it. This is some sort of hospital area right here. The people in Nicaragua do speak Spanish. When I went to the museum the other day, in the museum they talked about an indigenous language. You know, when you start looking at the history of the world, when you start looking at world history, you gain a greater sense for what was enacted upon this earth. Oh look, another cathedral that we're coming upon. You see that behind the buildings? There's 17 within like a small mile radius. These are the row houses and businesses, Spanish style roof, palm trees, a street that leads down somewhere. Let's try to get up to this last cathedral and then we're going to end the video. But when you start looking at world history, you get a greater sense for the atrocities that have been enacted upon man at the hands of people who claim that, I don't know, that claimed they were God-fearing, claim they were doing it in the name of God, murdering and slaughtering and stealing and pillaging. Such a shame. Apparently there were indigenous people that lived here before. They had gold. Columbus and them came over, killed a bunch of the indigenous people, stole their gold, and tried to enslave them. This is a tremendous lot. So here we go. This is the cathedral, or iglesia, I'm not sure which, but I think that this site is just really beautiful. Personally, I have enjoyed my time in Nicaragua. It has been a just a wonderful experience. It's nice to be able to come to a person's country or come to a country and be able to feel safe enough to enjoy the country instead of being thought of, or instead of, you know, being thought of as a succubus where people just latch onto you and try to take what it is that you have. So it's been great. I was welcomed in Nicaragua. There aren't many black people in Leon, so I kind of stood out over here. But I had a great time while I was here. I actually stayed longer than I thought I would. I thought I would stay maybe 2 days, and I ended up staying a week. So I had a great time here. If you ever think about coming out to Nicaragua, make sure that you order the BX. Make sure that you guardar your belongings, and make sure that you get out to some of the volcano places. Right now we're in a city, but there are lots of great places in Nicaragua. Ometepe, which are 2 volcanoes on an island just plunging out of the water. And there are just so many amazing things to see and witness and experience here. I know I'm sweating because even though the sun is going down, it's still pretty hot out here. So listen, I will catch you all in the next video. Thank you for tuning in. This is TonyaTko broadcasting in live right now from Leon, Nicaragua in Central America. TonyaTko, and I'm out. Peace. Hello knockouts, TonyaTko here, and I'm really excited about today's video because today we are in Livingston, Guatemala, and this is a really special place that I'm happy to be able to show to you all. What makes this place so special is that this is the part of Guatemala where it has a majority black population. It's a really interesting phenomenon, and I've asked people how did black folks get here, and no one really seems to have the answer.
Hello.
Do you know how black people got here? No? Okay. Come to www.tonyatko.com and download your free copy of my guide entitled Truly Love Yourself and Heal Old Trauma, and set up an appointment to have a free healing strategy session with me today. Remember, go out there and love one another, but most importantly, love yourself.